Welcome in to Rover Sports. Welcome back into the program. And right now we are going to talk about Chad Morris at the University of Arkansas. Chad Morris is a football coach, and Chad Morris is about to go to 0-16 in 2 consecutive years in SEC play. The problem with Chad Morris is he refuses to call plays, and he's put his coaching lifeline on, he's put his coaching career on the line for John Chavis, and a defensive coordinator that has been ostracized from Texas A&M, a complete journeyman, a guy that just keeps getting rehired in the SEC. That just shows you that Chad Morris, the only reason he hired Chief Chavis is because Chad Morris had no idea what defense he wanted to run himself. And that is a problem. You need to have an identity as a defense. You need to be creative defensively. You have Bumper Pool, Sosa Agam. You had a lot of returning guys on this defense, and yet they're absolutely getting roasted. You had Cameron Curl. You had a guy, you had a Scuba Harris, and you decide to hire this old, crusty old man named Chief John Chavis, and I'm sure Chavis is a good guy, but the point of the matter is that you put your coaching lifeline on the line for John Chavis, and that is completely unacceptable. You look at Coach Ed Orgeron. Is Ed Orgeron that much better than Chad Morris? Chad Morris knows how to run offense, but yet he has Joe Craddock calling his plays. In these desperate times, you need to be the guy calling your plays. Look what happened to your buddy Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn had Chip Lindsey in there calling plays, and suddenly Gus Malzahn woke up one day and's like, you know what, Chip? If we keep going 8-4, I'm going to get fired, so no offense, but I need to start calling my own plays, and if we're going down with my ship. And for Chad Morris needs to execute on the offensive side of the ball. He needs to play KJ Jefferson. He did not develop Nick Starkel at all, and he brought in a guy in Ben Hicks that is a backup quality starter in SEC play. That the guy is a backup. He doesn't have a big arm, and he's not elusive. And then you have Nick Starkel, and you couldn't develop Starkel over the offseason. You were too worried about getting guys reps. And the point is with Starkel, yeah, he might throw a lot of interceptions, but that's part of why you coach up Starkel, and this whole quarterback carousel is blown up in Chad Morris's face. And it's really because, again, you had a game where a wide receiver in Lynn Bowden was playing quarterback for the Kentucky Wildcats, and you could not even go beat that team with a wide receiver that was playing quarterback, because John Chavis, with 14 days to prepare, he doesn't know how to communicate. He's washed up. He's old. He's like Don Brown of Michigan. He's overrated as an offensive coordinator. If he was elite, if he was a Kevin Steele, if he was a Brent Venables, if he was an awesome defensive coordinator, he would be in hire. There's a reason you were able to hire a guy that left the SEC multitude of times, because this guy can't communicate defensively. He's too old. He can barely communicate. Guys don't love playing for Chief Chavis. He doesn't do anything differently. And Gus Malzahn took him to the woodshed. So instead of adapting, you chose to die. It's adapt or die. And you chose to die on the hill of Chief John Chavis and Ben Hicks and Joe Craddock. Your little coffee boy, Joe Craddock, you let him call your plays. So all you are doing, Chad Morris, all you are doing at the University of Arkansas is overseeing guys that are incompetent in Craddock, and especially an older guy in Chief John Chavis, that if you fire Chief Chavis, who else is going to hire John Chavis? So you needed to be creative with your defensive coordinator, and you didn't do that whatsoever. You had an opportunity to beat Ole Miss, if you started Nick Starkel, and then you haven't taught Starkel how to not throw interceptions. And then you went back to Hicks. Then you go to Starkel. Then you go to Hicks. Pick a side and stay with that damn side. And Chad Morris needs to call his own plays. If he's an excellent play caller, you need to be excellent on offense. If you're going to run up-tempo stuff, you run up-tempo stuff. Because what is the identity of this program other than losing? You guys need to do excellent things. You need to be a recruiter. And so far, this ship has sailed. Chad Morris, you could just tell that he's worn down from the job of Arkansas. It's too difficult. And Jerry Jones helped him get the job with his Texas ties, with his Dallas, Texas ties. But you got to be all in at Arkansas. You got to be passionate. You got to love the people of Arkansas and love the people of the state of Arkansas. And you, my friend, just haven't done the job. And Brett Bielema, the job is tough. Arkansas is a very difficult place. It's tough to recruit Texas kids there. You're playing in the toughest division in college football, playing at a place where they haven't had success since Bobby Petrino. You know, Brett Bielema came in there. He did a decent job, but now it is time. Now it is time for a new coach at Arkansas, because I don't think that Chad Morris is getting it done, and I don't think Chad Morris has the capacity now and the energy to keep going. And the Arkansas Razorback fans, when you lose to Kentucky and you lose to these schools, you have no chance. So if you keep John Chavis, keep making the same decisions, if you don't start KJ Jefferson, your freshman quarterback, and develop him, and heck, why are these guys getting developed? Nick Starkel had so much more talent than Hicks, and yet Nick Starkel didn't start off the year. Nick Starkel has potential, but instead you chose to go with Ben Hicks, who again is barely 6 feet tall, barely has arm strength. You have good wide receivers. You have Trey Knox, who can really, really play. You have guys that are great wide receivers. I'm thinking of the other wide receiver that is on the University of Arkansas. You have freshman studs that are great wide receivers, and you should have Nick Starkel throwing the ball. I think it's Trey Guidry. I'm trying to think of the other wide receivers on Arkansas. I mean, I know you have Cheyenne O'Grady, who's a really good tight end by NFL prospects, but the point is, by you keeping John Chavis, that's why you lost the job. You have Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is a phenomenal football player. He's going to get drafted. So instead, you kept John Chavis, and that's what ended up happening to you. Kept Chavis, and that's why you're out of a job, because you didn't adapt. You didn't try to find a defensive coordinator. You were too lazy, and you stuck with an old head, and you went into this year just expecting to get a couple of wins, roll out of the program, and Hunter Yurchek's probably going to fire you. But knowing Arkansas, they'll hire a retread hire in the future with Hunter Yurchek and Jerry Jones. They won't look for a Brett Dearman that's doing an amazing job at Kansas. They won't even try to find Joe Brady or Will Healy or these good young coaches. Even the guy at Oklahoma State that has a good offense there, and Sean Gleason. They'll probably just get a retread hire back at Arkansas. But this coaching staff's done, and he didn't adapt by having Chief Chavis. He didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't be a CEO, didn't know how to run a difficult program, and he hasn't beaten Power 5 teams. He hasn't beaten Power 5 teams as a head man. He was great at Clemson, but at Clemson you also have Scott. You have a whole family of people there working for you at Clemson. You have Dabo Swinney, the best recruiter in all of the land, other than Nick Saban. So there you go, guys. That is my synopsis on Arkansas.